and welcome to the Holistic Living, Learning, and Loving podcast, where we are bringing you back to the basics.
We explore sustainable living and holistic health and strive for progress, not perfection.
So please join us on a wellness journey and feel empowered to make positive changes in your life.
Hey guys, today we are going to talk about science bias and kind of what that means for us. In this realm, we're always researching things and, trying to get the best information, trying to, prove what we think is right and what feels right, and better understand, what things are bad and what things are good and all these different things. So, there's lots of articles out there that you can research. Lots of people post like citations whenever they're saying things, so that you can go and like fact check everything. And we're going to kind of talk about how that works today and, what to be careful with, because essentially no matter what you research, you're going to find an article to prove either side of that. Like whatever you want to find, like you will find out there. So we're going to kind of dive into that and talk about science bias today. So Rachel, what is, I know this is like a topic that's near and dear to your heart. So what are you thinking today about this?
It really gets me fired up talking about this, as you know. So, as I started down this journey, I did a lot of research, and I quickly noticed that you could pretty much find whatever you were looking for, no matter, it would always be conflicting information. Like you could find a study that would prove either side. And I quickly realized that like in a society today where we take science as like a religion almost, like somebody says something, it's like, oh, well, where's the studies? Show me the facts. What do the experts say? And we take these people as like almost like a god,
leaders,
like they, yeah, like they can't be wrong, and everything that they say and do is the absolute fact, unchanging facts. And like I think we are just severely misguided. We are severely misguided, and I think people don't even have a lot of people don't even have a clue just how bad it is. Like today, it's so bad. It's so flawed. It's so corrupt, and fueled by just money.
Mm-hmm. And then at the same time, we say that, I'm gonna be devil's advocate and say that there is really good research out there by really great researchers as well. But the hard part is to separate one from the other, to separate the pharmaceutical backed corporation that's making millions of dollars on this research against the student, the PhD student at the university who's just doing this to further education and, that kind of thing.
Well, it's really hard to do that when you're not really like deep into this stuff. Like now I'm pretty deep into it. I know, well, I don't, we don't always know, but I feel like I can make a good educated decision on who I can trust and who I can't. I know what companies that, like, if it's from Monsanto, I'm not, I'm not going to believe anything they say, or any pharmaceutical company. I'm not going to trust anything they say. But the problem is almost everything is backed by pharmaceutical companies now, So it's really, there are, like you said, there are good ones out there, but you'd have to know who to trust. But you can do that by following the money. But, so I was listening to another podcast earlier about science today and everything, and they had mentioned how the Public Library of Science and Medicine said it's more likely for research claims to be false than true. In modern research, false findings may be the majority or even the vast majority of public research claims. Modern research findings are false for most research designs and for most fields. Sorry, my reading was terrible. Maybe I should do that again.
Go back to 7th grade. You need to read Romeo and Juliet in class.
Anyway. So yeah, like basically what it's saying is in modern research, the false findings make up most of what's out there now in today's science.
Yeah, I mean that, I was researching who funds publications, who funds the research basically. And I was kind of expecting that for the most part that corporations are funding most publications. But I did find that the government actually is like the number one in that. But there are some categories where big corporations are funding most of that like portion, and I'll talk about it later.
What I found out was that most of the studies are being funded by corporations, but then yes, you still have your stuff by the universities and the government. But with further digging, you'll find that even those studies are funded through pharmaceutical industries as well.
Yeah, I remember when I was in college, I went to UNO, and in the geology department that I studied, there was this woman that I was friends with, and she was doing some like research or whatever, that was like her funding was from like, university research, but the actual funding itself wasn't from the university. It was like funding from a company who was funding that. So it's like kind of like veiled, like, oh, this person's just a university student. It's funded by the university, but it's not actually funded by the university. It's funded by whoever's giving that university money for the study,
But yeah, so that gets pretty scary. It's flawed or biased studies. They really impact our lives in every which way, because that's what dictates what drugs will be created and how they're going to treat certain diseases and illness. It dictates how our food is grown and processed, how our environment is handled, and how or what your doctors are taught, how they're going to treat you. And just how, just the fact that everything your doctors are learning is being controlled by studies that are bought and paid for by the pharmaceutical industry or whatever is terrifying,
Yeah, because they stand to make profit off of that stuff. And then the pharmaceutical reps go into the doctor's offices and try to get them to prescribe their medicine, and it's just like they're making money off of us being sick.
Yes, and it all makes sense once you start figuring this out. Like it controls our laws and regulations. Everything in our country, in our world, is controlled by science. But like, from what we learn from science, because what else do we have to go by? Right? Like everything is created from that. And if it's biased, corrupt, whatever, then that's why we're in the situation we're in today,
Yeah, it's like it's all founded upon a lie. Like, for instance, I feel like I always talk about this. One of my friends had a baby. I looked at the baby formula to see the ingredients because I'm that person. And, the first ingredient is like sunflower seed oil or something. And I'm like, oh, this is awful. And this was like some kind of kitschy, like goat's milk, like new wave kind of baby formula. It wasn't like your Similac or whatever. And so I started Googling it. And the FDA mandates all baby formulas have seed oils because all baby formulas must have polyunsaturated fats. Now, are there other polyunsaturated fats that are available besides F and seed oils that are super inflammatory and create omega-6s and all this bad stuff in our bodies? I'm sure there are, but the studies say we have to have polyunsaturated fats. The studies say, oh, what's a great one? Seed oils.
Yeah.
This is
and
the
didn't
most
you
perfect
say that
one.
In other countries they don't use seed oils?
No.
Like in
This
Europe
is
and
like,
stuff?
I mean, there are some countries like Switzerland, for instance, they produce a lot of rapeseed oil, and that's like their predominant oil because we're going there. And I was like, ooh, I get to not have to worry about seed oil. So of course I Google it, and it's like, no, we use rapeseed oil and everything. So it just depends on like what people are farming in that location.
But I mean, just think about it. Like, does it make sense that there has to be seed oils in baby formula? Like, sure, they might need those certain fats, but there's other ways.
There's got to be a better, more nutritious way to supply that fat besides seed oils, But that's the science. The science said you have to have this. The FDA rubber stamps it. This must be in all baby formulas in the United States, period.
And that's
so
just terrifying.
Every single baby-owned formula is being filled with seed oils for the first year of their life. That is scary.
That is so awful.
I know, and my babies too. That and palm oil. So, I mean, it's just crazy because you're right. It just like dictates exactly how. Another thing, whenever I was pregnant, I decided to do like an at-home birthing kind of class, and it was by this woman who was like a midwife. And it kind of talked about the midwifing practice of birthing and how it differs from like a traditional hospitalization type birth. And basically in like 1910, like midwifing like went away basically, and they instituted like obstetrics, birthing in hospitals, and created this new hospitalization plan for how they were going to do that. And just how it changed from like something that was like very natural and didn't involve a lot of drugs and like interventions. Now, some drugs and interventions are 100% necessary, and
Yeah.
like obviously we needed that. But a whole like profession almost like died because we went towards like the more, medical aspect of birthing. And we like lost a lot of that midwifery practice that
Yeah.
was still good stuff.
Oh, definitely. I have a friend who is really into that. Like she, like home birthed the last few of her children. She has like 5 kids. Like completely home birthed, just her and her husband. She had done a ton of research, and she like taught me a lot, saying basically how you a lot of the stuff they do is completely unnecessary. They have really like taken birthing and made it a big medical thing, like a surgery, when it doesn't have to be that way. And they really a lot of times cause a lot more harm than good by all of these interventions they do. And that's a whole nother actually a great topic, and maybe we should even get her on here one day and talk about that.
Yeah, and like I said, there are some cases where medical interventions are absolutely necessary. Like if I didn't have
Yeah.
medical interventions, I would have died. like so but in some cases a traditional approach would be perfectly fine for people. Or at least just
Definitely.
have the options of having a midwife at the hospital. That way
Yeah.
you're at the hospital in case things go south, but you're able to have a more natural, practice and not medicated and stuff like that.
Definitely.
But it's kind of hard to like find those like midwives at the hospitals. There are some hospitals that have it, but
That's what I hear.
difficult.
It's kind of like a difficult situation the way it's all set up. But so a good question is, why is so much of our science corrupt or biased and whatnot? That is a very good question to ask. Like, how did we get here? So, from Dr. Sina McCullough, her and Joel Salatin have a podcast called Beyond Labels, and I listen to it. I love it. And she's a scientist. And she had broken down how a research scientist's career works today, and like how to become successful. So a research scientist's career and success boils down to the number of publications you were able to publish, the number of citations you've gotten by other scientists once your article is published, and then this thing called H-index, basically, which is something that roughly quantifies the researcher's productivity and their impact. Now, when you consider all of those things, that's basically just incentivizing a scientist to put whatever out there just so they can get a lot of things published. To get things published, you need funding. To get funded, you have to, do studies for these corporations, and they want you to have a certain finding, a certain outcome, and they're not going to fund you if you're not going to give them the outcome that they're looking for.
Or they might have funded you, but they won't let you publish. Like,
Yeah.
like in universities, they might not let you publish what you actually found if it goes against what they
Definitely.
want.
Definitely. And you want to, as a scientist, you actually want to get published.
Yeah.
So
Your whole career depends on it.
Right. And you're also wanting other scientists and other papers to cite your stuff. So you can see where this is going. It's all just incentivizing and ran by money and power.
Yeah, and I was also reading that, there's no desire to replicate things, like replicate studies or like go and like publish negative findings, like try to like mitigate negative findings or whatever, because there's no money in that,
Right.
like you're not going to get a bunch of citations from something that's already been done before, so why would you go and do that? Because not going to help your career to do that, you know. I mean, I'm sure there are some scientists who do that, but for the vast majority of people in this business, because it is a business,
Right.
why would they want to do that? So,
Right. And I mean, those scientists are very far and few between.
and like the positive results are published a lot more quickly and more uncritically than like the negative results.
Right. Nobody wants the negative results.
So I read in a study published in Nature, more than 70% of all medical and biological researchers report having failed to confirm other researchers' results. So that's
Yeah.
like going down to like the replication.
Right. That's another thing I had read, like found out too. Like a lot of these, is that what you're saying? Like a lot of the studies are not reproducible,
Yeah.
which is everything in science. If another scientist can't come and reproduce that study, then that study is meaningless.
Yeah.
They should always be reproducible. And they're not reproducible because not all of the information is present half the time. And the information is just false a lot of the times. You know what I mean? That's why you can't reproduce it. That's why a lot of the information isn't there. And I'm sure it gets much deeper.
Well, yeah. I mean, the thing about it is like we don't know what we don't know. You know, we
Right.
only know what information we have available to us right now. And like, so how can we possibly adjust for all these variables when we don't even know what they are yet?
That is something I say, that's like my number one thing when it comes to science, because you could even have a great study that was people with good intentions, didn't mean anything. They're actually trying to do the right thing and do real science. And that's the stuff that we need to look at. That's the stuff that we need to use as tools, but tools, not as absolute fact. Even those, and the reason being is because there are an infinite amount of variables as humans that we will never ever think of or understand. Things that could seem so unrelated, but actually play a big part in something. You know, that we would just never consider, and we will never be able to replicate nature. Ever. We will always be missing variables. We will never actually have the right answers. So science is a great tool to get us in a right direction to do better and learn more. But it doesn't mean that if they say this, that it couldn't be a little off, or there's more to it, or whatnot. You know what I mean? So many people, we just think that is it. That's the facts, and there's nothing more.
Mm-hmm.
And
like you never know what new big discoveries around the corner. You know, when people made these huge discoveries in every field, they didn't know that like quantum physics was around the corner or whatever, you know. So
or epigenetics, which has changed so much about biology.
Yeah, like so many things we haven't even figured out yet, and like we're the tip of the iceberg, as they say, you know.
Yeah.
But another thing I was looking at, because, you know, I was trying to, you know, you wanted to talk about this subject, so we kind of go back and forth. What are we going to talk about next week, you know? And you wanted to talk about this, and I, like, don't know a whole lot about this. So I was kind of trying to research and figure out, you know, what I wanted to say and, you know, what I want to contribute to the conversation. So another thing I was looking at is, like, to access journals. Like, it used to be hard to access journals. You know, you had to have this really expensive subscription that costs like $2,000 a year to be able to access these journals. But now we have open access journals, so there's a lot of information that's out there. But unfortunately, when you have open access, you know, it's not as tightly regulated. So people are able to submit publications that basically have no quality control or no peer review, and they just submit them, and that's out there for people to think it's fact, you know, because people think publications are fact.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of stuff out there that, like, I think a lot of us will go and research something, but we don't actually check a lot of the times to see if it's even a credible source.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I've done that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you know, and I'm so guilty of this. Sometimes I just want to I'm biased. I want to find what I believe in, and I want to feel confirmed that I'm doing the right thing, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just like our nature, you know? I don't even know if that's something somebody could change about themselves. I mean, you could work on it, but like naturally, we're always going to try to confirm what we think. Mm-hmm. You know, but yeah, definitely something to stay aware of.
So one thing that I was looking at is like who funds studies, because I just like I wanted it to say that big corporations fund like 99% of studies, you know. And like what I found out is that that's not actually true. It's more government like funds a lot of studies in different sectors like FDA and USDA and NASA and all that stuff funds like tons of studies. But like one thing that I did notice is like with drug companies, for instance, that NIH actually funds like a lot in drug companies, but they actually fund the initial research into it. But when it comes to the clinical trial part of that, then that's where the pharmaceutical companies are totally in control of that data.
Yeah, and the pharmaceutical companies are actually like funding a lot of the university and government research as well. If you start digging,
It's really scary how much the pharmaceutical industry,
they really like are just running the world, if you ask me.
I don't know
I
about
mean,
the world, but definitely this country.
Yeah.
I just like, so it's like we talk about government versus industry, and I have a really hard time because I have just become so distrustful of like government entities, you know, like the FHA, haha, I'm a mortgage lender, not the FHA, the FDA and USDA and all that stuff. It's like so scary.
Well, I mean, you're distrustful for a good reason. I mean, they don't have our best interest at mind. When you start following the money and you start to realize that really the USDA, the FDA, pharmaceutical industry, they're all working together. It's all works together, and then that funnels down to what our doctors and everybody's learning in the universities, and then it's all together, and they know better. They're this I mean tinfoil hat conversation, but
Yeah. It's
it's
just like the
true.
lobbyists,
It's all
you
about
know,
filling their pockets.
yeah.
It
And
just
like
is.
if you continue to have government officials that have no term limits and things like that, people that can just go from one office to the next one and keep staying in politics, keep staying in power, I don't believe that they'll ever truly care about anyone besides their constant maintaining of power. Because
Yeah, and
that's their
then
career, that's their livelihood, that's their people that are motivated by power, you know?
yeah, and they're all intermingled. Like you'll have people from the USDA in government, in politics, and FDA, all of that stuff. They're all intermingled to where they can, scratch each other's backs.
But it's so crazy because honestly, if you would have talked to me, I don't know, even during the height of COVID about a lot of these things, I had 100% trust in the government that they were had my best interest in mind. I had 100% trust in vaccines, trust in food, like all that stuff. I just believed blindly that they were my representatives and that that's what they're supposed to do, and you know that America is the number one country in the world and all that stuff. But it's like now, like I've just gone down this rabbit hole and find myself so like I just have to question everything. And like I guess that's what we're trying to say is like
Yes, you have to
question.
question. Yes, and that's a good. I'm glad you're bringing that up because that's where a lot of people in America still are. Like they still fully trust the system. They don't think that the government, I mean, is out to get us. And I'm not saying like they're out to get us, but they are out to fill their pockets and to become rich and powerful. And with that comes neglecting us and just they don't care about us. And nobody is the government is not going to save us. I'm not
We're gonna
saying
get
don't go,
banned.
huh?
We're gonna
Yeah,
get
I know.
banned.
But we'll see. But they're not like you could. I'm not saying don't go vote. Like vote, all of that stuff. I'm not getting political, but you can't wait on the next great president or politician that's gonna come and save you. They're not. There's no. You can't like make more and more regulations and laws to fix all of this stuff. You really need to take the power back into your own hands over your own life. Believe in yourself that you do have the intelligence and authority to question things, to know what's best for you, your body, and your family, and your family's health. You are smart enough. You don't have to wait on this doctor, this scientist to tell you how to live your life and just tell you what to do all the time. Like, they are not gods. They don't know everything, and now we know that they're highly corrupt, and the ones that aren't corrupt are still listening to the others, and learning from the others. So it's like everything must be questioned. And just know that when you don't know where to go or what to believe, go back to nature. Nature will always lead you in the right direction. What seems natural? What makes sense? Right? A lot of the times this stuff is much more simpler than they make it seem. They make this stuff seem like it's so complicated. You have to have a PhD and go to college for 20 years to understand this stuff, to know how to take care of your own health, to know how to take care of your family, your finances, all this. That's not true. They just have made it so complicated. They don't, nobody wants you to they don't want you to have faith in yourself in all these areas. Otherwise, you won't pay everybody else to do it for you. You certainly can do these things. A lot of things are simple. Just trust your instincts. Question things.
That's a big thing, is like trust your intuition. When
Yes.
things don't feel right, that is your intuition telling you, don't go down that path, don't do this. Your intuition, you just have to tune into it, and trust it, because it's there for a reason. Like, you don't have those, I mean, there are some cases where you have like intrusive thoughts, and I'm not saying to like trust those. Like, my crazy intrusive thought every time I go over the causeway is that I'm gonna go over the side and drown in the water with my kids in the back. Like, not those kind of thoughts.
Well, we have to learn how to differentiate, right? I mean, that's part of taking that power back.
But there's sometimes where you just get that feeling like, this doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
I don't want to, like, you might be like, I feel like somebody was telling me they were walking down the street, like they lived in New York, and they were, it's like this Bravo celebrity, and she was about to turn down this alley, and she was like, I don't like, she just like, something in her head was like, I don't want to go down there. She went a different way. And as she was going down there, she like saw these like sketchy looking guys down that alley. And if she had went down there, who knows what would have happened. But that was like her intuition, just like the strange feeling, like, I don't feel good about that. Something about that makes me uneasy. Like, never go against that intuition.
Yes, like your intuition is such a powerful thing, and I think society has kind of beaten that out of us and like taught us not to trust that basically kind of like what you were saying, like makes us feel that like everything is just an intrusive thought. But like our intuition guides us in the right direction many times, and that's something I've been really working on lately, is trusting my intuition. And really, the more you start to trust it and listen to it and just kind of go with the flow with that, the more you build. It's like building a muscle, and building that strength.
Yeah, and like, I mean, like, I do research. I like look at articles and papers, and another thing I like to do is like my own peer review is, and maybe it's stupid to do this, I don't know, but like I'll look at Reddit and like I'll search something and see what hundreds of other people are saying about it, and like, is there any commonality where a lot of people are saying something good about this subject or whatever, or people are saying it's bad or whatever, like I'm looking to see people that have experiences with, like, let's say, like a supplement that I'm thinking about taking. What did they say about it? Because I'm certainly not going to go to the manufacturer and be like, explain to me why this is the perfect thing for me. And they're like, oh, let me tell you, honey, I will give you everything you need to know about how this is the best thing in your life,
Yeah, that's actually like my favorite thing to do. I think that is a really like great positive way to find an answer or a starting point. If something is working for thousands of people and people are raving about it and screaming from the rooftops about this certain thing or whatever, then there's probably some truth to it, especially when it's just common people like us that have nothing to gain other than sharing the good news. Then there's probably something to it. Just because there isn't some expensive scientific study backing it up doesn't mean it isn't true. There are so many beneficial things that could be life-changing to so many of us that aren't being studied because there's just no money in it.
Yeah. Like,
definitely listen to what you're hearing your peers and others talk about.
Yeah, I mean, don't, like, if one person says, oh, this is the best thing ever, like, maybe, I would definitely, like, research it more and,
always
like,
research it more, yeah.
Yeah.
I
guess
I should have said that. Like, don't just go and do something. Always look into it more, but like a starting point,
Yeah, like right now I'm really big into researching cilantro for like a heavy metals detox. But like, I'm not just gonna go like buy some cilantro and like wing it. I want to see like what are other people saying? How did they do it? How did they feel? And like, there's like a lot of great Facebook groups online for like everything you could possibly imagine. There's a Facebook group for it. And while there's a lot of BS, stupid, opinions and whatever on there, there's also some nuggets of good information that can help you come to your own informed decision using all of these resources that we have for you to decide what you want to do and what you think is best.
Definitely.
Like sometimes it's not that like, like you could go to the doctor and the doctor is going to say like, I just went to my doctor because I have freaking glaucoma. Like, how the hell did I get glaucoma? But anyway,
really? I did.
Yeah, like I have a weird glaucoma. It's strange. And he's like, well, I think we're going to have to put you on drops. And I'm like, oh God, like I don't want to do drops. I'm like, because like I have a very low level. It's not like anywhere near bad yet. I'm like, how about this? I want to do some research and see if there's anything like holistic, some sort of like herb or something that I can do, diet, work, I don't know, something that I can do before. And he's like, well, he kind of was like, I don't think any of that's going to work. And I was like, well, she's like, but I want to see back in 2 to 3 months. I was like, okay, well, I'm going to do me for 2 to 3 months and I'm going to come back and I'm going to see if it worked. And if it doesn't work and I tried, then I will do the drops.
Yes.
But I want to give myself a chance to figure out for myself if there's something that can be done without having to resort to pharmaceuticals for the rest of my life,
Yeah, I agree with that. I was kind of in the same boat with varicose veins. They have done pretty bad in my legs, and they just keep coming back, and they're like below, like down to my ankle. And when it gets that low, you can't just do the treatment where they burn it and make it collapse. They can, but it's dangerous. They can hit a nerve and cause drop foot. So they have this stuff called, that my doctor referred to as foam, which I did not like that. And push it into your veins, and I don't know if I had researched it, but now I'm forgetting. But it like makes them collapse or whatever. And it's really successful. It used to be used for cosmetic reasons only. But and I kept trying to like look for something negative about it, and they had like a few things, but it was generally pretty safe. But just the idea of it, like they say that the chemical doesn't stay in your body. That's what I was worried about. But I'm just iffy about it. I don't like it. And so I canceled my appointment, and I've been trying to find something else. I mean, I probably will have to go through with it. I haven't found anything really promising. I see a lot of stuff, some herbs and stuff that people claim. Maybe I should try them. I don't know. But
just research it.
Yeah,
it's like that's the thing. We're not just gonna like blindly go out and be like, yes, I'll take that. Like research it, question it, and it may be fine. But at least you did your due diligence to determine that on your own without someone just telling you this is what you need to do,
Right. Like just because your doctor said this is safe and it's fine, you can't, even if your doctor is the greatest doctor, you've been knowing him your whole life, he's got the best heart in the world, and he's got your best interest in mind. Remember who funds his education. Like, seriously, like, they still are taught by the same people who are funding all these studies. So you have to keep that in mind. Take control of your health. I'm not saying don't trust your doctor. I'm just saying cover all your bases.
Yes, if a doctor prescribes something, go home, research it. Don't just go to the pharmacy and fill the pill and take it. Unless it's like life-threatening or something, obviously. Yeah. But go home and put your time into it and figure out if that's the right thing for you. And maybe it is.
Yeah, sometimes it definitely is. We're not saying that Western medicine and all of this stuff is, always, or conventional medicine is always bad. No, like it's definitely like life-saving and great when we need it, but it's definitely got its bad side too. And that we have to take authority back into our own hands and stop just blindly trusting everyone. Because
they used to think asbestos was safe.
Yeah, and cigarettes.
Cigarettes used to be safe. Coca-Cola used to be totally fine.
Yes.
There was studies that showed Coca-Cola didn't do anything to increase obesity, that it was fat was the problem, not sugar, so there's just so many factors that go into this stuff. I remember I would get a prescription from the doctor. I wouldn't even read the pamphlet. I would just be like, all right, start taking
Right.
this. It
Oh
was
yeah,
not
that's how
even
I've
a
always.
thought in my head. The doctor
Yeah,
said it is, and this is how it goes.
that's how I always was up until I started with this journey. Like, and that's why I know other people are still there because that's if the doctor said it, that's what it is. And that's how a lot of people think.
No, I mean, because, it takes more time and more energy to research
It does.
and decide. And then some things you may not like. Maybe you don't have the energy to put, to change your diet and exercise, and you could just take this pill. You could take Ozempic and you'll just get skinny.
Yeah.
And for some people, I think that's, for some people they need that. And that's fine, but just be in control of your destiny and
Right.
do what you feel is right.
Make informed decisions and just know like the consequences. Like if you are going to take Ozempic, is that what it's called? Ozempic?
Mm-hmm.
Just go look it up and know that if you're making that choice, what the long-term consequences are,
Yeah.
rather than just blindly taking it.
So, guys, we just want you to take control of your destiny, to do your due diligence for yourself, your family, do what feels right, trust your intuition. That's kind of what we talk about in all of our podcasts is take ownership of your future and do what feels right for you. We hope that this has been inspiring, that you go out and do some digging, and, work towards improvement, not perfection. We are not perfect. I am not perfect. Not at all.
Yeah, that's what. So yeah, definitely remember that you do have the power to take control over your health and your family and make informed decisions. Don't think that you aren't smart enough. Just remember that. We it's easy to forget and think that we need to rely on the experts. And remember that these are great tools, but they're tools, not, unfailing or undeniable truth or gods or any of that.
So we hope you enjoyed the episode today. We'll be back next week. And if you liked us, please like, subscribe, share with a friend, comment on YouTube or Facebook. We really enjoy putting out this content, and we hope that you enjoy consuming it. Thanks, guys. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.